the Mexican Cultural Institute, to create a dance company that would follow the traditions and the history and the culture of our culture of Mexico.
There's different stories that we tell. There's the history, the tradition, and the cultures that we try our best to represent that are directly from Mexico. Dances from specific regions, different states of Mexico, and honoring those traditions, those cultures, the music, the costuming, everything that we can.
I started in high school. They had a folklorico program, and I had just come from Mexico, having the cultural shock from being in a different country, a different language. Knowing that they were offering folklorico dance classes in high school was, to me, almost like the light in the darkness. La danza para mí es algo que me conecta a mi tierra. Es como una forma de no olvidar de dónde vengo, de quién soy, de mis tradiciones, de todo.
I started dancing when I was at UT years ago. I didn't want to dance Mexican folk, and a friend of mine, I dragged her to do Tejano dancing, and she dragged me to the UT Ballet Folklóricos group of Folklórico, and that first rehearsal was just eye-opening, and it spoke to me, and I wanted to understand why am I so fascinated by this when I didn't want to do it before. And I think it was the tie to my Mexican culture. I wasn't too aware of the different styles of dance. I remember I just thought it was the Jalisco big dresses and the charro outfits with the big hats for the sombreros for the men. And that's what I thought folklorico was. It wasn't until I joined and started learning that Mexico has several states, and every state has their own style, and every region has their own costume and colors and native dress, and then even learning about even Aztec, like more indigenous dances, like that just opened up a whole new world for me.
We get stopped by audience members who talk about what this theater means to them. They attended films when they were a child, or their family is from the neighborhood down the block.
Having a home theater is such a gift. You know, we come here and dance, and we have people. It's so intimate. You know, it's so intimate, and it doesn't matter where you sit on this theater. You're gonna be able to see what anybody else sees. And here in this theater, it's almost like we're dancing right here for you. We're so close to you.
Our community really supports, our community events that bring and preserve our traditions. And so an example that comes to mind is during the pandemic, while we were rehearsing outside, people in the neighborhood came in their cars, parked on the street just to watch us, just to feel the vibrance again of the music and to see the dancers rehearsing, and they would applaud as if it was a performance.
The interest is there. There's so much happening, and it's not just in San Antonio. I mean, it's almost now national.
That drive to keep nuestra cultura alive, our culture alive, and to educate audiences, to educate future generations, and to instill that sense of pride in who we are and our history no matter what that history is, right? And the struggles that our ancestors have been through, that we don't forget and that we honor them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Belinda Menchaca, and I am the Director of Education for the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. And it gives me great joy to be here among members of the Guadalupe Dance Company here on the beautiful stage of the Guadalupe Theater. And with us, we have members of our dance company.
Hi, my name is Luis Garcia Jr. I've been with the dance company since 2020.
Hi, hola, soy Carolina Guerra, and I've been with the dance company since 2004.
And I am Jeanette Chavez. I currently direct the dance company, and I actually started as one of the original company members in 1991.
And I've actually been with the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center since 1992. And through our history as members of the Guadalupe Dance Company, we've created repertoire that, of course, uses our folklorico vocabulary, our flamenco dance skills, but we really enjoy telling stories about our community, telling stories about our Mexican American leaders, stories that oftentimes are not told. And so through the history of our choreography, we have had the opportunity to interview members of our community, but also to do our own research about Mexican American leaders so that we can share their stories, educate our audience members, and encourage them to continue researching those leaders that have changed our lives and have actually created paths for us to continue forward. And so one of our latest productions is called Nuestras Voces, Retelling Our Stories. And we would love to share a little bit about how we work through the process of choreography, how we create the steps, the dances, the music, and all of us are choreographers in our own right. And so this is an opportunity to give you a little bit of insight into how that process is created. Luis, would you like to share a little bit about your process?
I think for me, ever since joining the dance company, one of my first productions was Rio Bravo. And I remember thinking, this is not a traditional folklorico show, but it was about the history of dance in this region in Texas. And then hearing about how that came about, Maestro Samarripa, Maestro Juan Carlos Gaitan, and I wasn't there for the process of it. I think it had been several years that it had already premiered, but to participate in it, and then we've done it several times already, and trying to understand how, where that inspiration came from. And in our discussions, we talked about the museum exhibitions, we talked about just research. So I would go to the museums and I would look to see how did they come up with this and then create that dance that we're performing, you know. And then throughout the years, we started doing other shows like Historias y Recuerdos, Ematenayuca, and all of that was also sort of part of our DNA as the Guadalupe Dance Company. For me, it was never the creative side in terms of coming up with it. It was more of let's participate, let's come up with it together, or let's figure out how to improve it or how to make it different for this year or for when we're performing it. And that was always in the back of my head, performing with the dance company, because I know we're always doing the traditional folklorico shows, then those are kind of those are always there, and I'm always learning even new steps or new regions, and there's always something new to learn. But I also wanted to participate in this creative aspect of coming up with stories. And I feel like, and maybe, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like sometimes I come in with did you know about this? Just a bunch of stories that I hear or that I read about. Nothing has turned into dance. Well, some stuff has turned into dance. But it's that idea of being inspired by our histories, by our stories, by the culture, by myths and legends, and how everything inspires us to move, and then trying to come up with that. That's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
Well, for me, I also started with Rio Bravo back in 2004, and it was also not the first time. So I came in as a fresh dancer from the academy, and like Luis says, it was different. It was not what I was used to. I was used to doing traditional folklorico, but I remember loving it and being so amazed by the Guadalupe Dance Company. From the moment I saw them rehearse, I said I want to dance with them. And it's been many years since then, and sharing the stage in those productions like Historias y Recuerdos, and we did something else, I can't remember the name, but we've done some other shows and productions with storytelling. And one of the things that I think about all the time is the process and the evolution to get there. Personally, as a dancer, from the first shows, it was a little bit uncomfortable in a way because it was new to me. Acting was never something that I thought I would be doing in a show. And I mean, just going through those productions, creating dance and movement, telling stories has been very inspiring. And recently with Nuestras Voces, I've actually think that I've grown as a dancer and as a choreographer and now an instructor. I honestly did not think that I was going to be able to do it. I didn't think I had what it takes to teach something like that, right? And to teach our kids to show emotion and to tell a story through just movement and dance without actually saying or telling the story. So it has been an incredible process. I am very proud of the Academy kids in this class. We just had our first show with them, and I was very proud to see where we started and then where we ended. It was very inspiring, and it made me grow as a dancer and choreographer. And now I think about it all the time. I mean, I listen to a piece of music, and I start thinking, what can I do to this music? What story can I tell with this music? And there's so many beautiful pieces out there, musical pieces, and my mind just starts going. And I would never ever think that I was gonna be there, because I'm all about traditional and keeping, like the rules of what we're supposed to do. And it's not that we're breaking rules, because we're creating, but I never thought I was gonna be part of creating like this. And now I just come up with ideas all the time, and I write things down, and now I want to share it with the company, and I just even just as an exercise, not necessarily as something that we have to use for a performance or a show, but just to share it with my dance familia. And it's also therapy for me, and I hope that it is for my fellow dancers and for the Academy kids. But dance is my therapy, so whatever I'm feeling that day, whatever is going through my mind, I'm gonna use it, and we're gonna create.
Yeah.
So that's what it did for me, and I hope that it continues. Nuestras Voces was a show that it taught me a lot. I was not aware of a lot of this things that happen in history, and I think it's important to to tell those stories and to share that with our audience. People need to know the hidden history. People need to know what happened. People need to know the things that our familia and our ancestors and our people went through. And it was heartbreaking for me. So it is important that we keep going with this, that we keep sharing and telling stories like that to inspire people and inspire our youth to don't forget where you come from, and this is what happened to our people, and we have to let the world know.
Yep,
And
exactly.
so
I have a question. How did you come up decide, or how did the idea for a class come about?
Well, so a couple of things, right? The history of the dance company, while we are based in Folklorico, as everyone has talked about, it has always been about telling our stories, our Mexican-American stories, and specifically of this region of Texas. And so all throughout our 30-plus year history, we've been doing that. But in these recent years, I think we've felt even more so a heavy responsibility to educate audiences and also figure out what is the legacy of the Guadalupe Dance Company. We've been doing this, and we've been together for 20 plus 30 years, you know. What's the future of the dance company? And it's always our students, right? We have over 100 students in our academy, separate than our dance company. And the idea is that they always kind of graduate, right? We mentor them into the dance company. Gato is one of our former academy students, and she's still growing, which is beautiful. And so the idea was, how do we train future dancers to continue the kind of work that we do? Because it's not something that you go to school to learn, right? You can learn dance technique, you can learn dances, but how to create choreography, exactly what Luis was talking about, based off of a story, based off of an idea, based off of something in history. How do we bring that to life on stage? And that's something that we do organically all the time, right?
It's our favorite word.
Yes. One of the unique things about the dance company is that we work as a collective. So I never come in and say, this is what I say this is what we're doing, but I don't set the choreography. I say, Luis, I need you to come up with something. Gato, you're going to come up with something. Miss Melinda, you're going to come up with something. We throw out ideas, we brainstorm, and then as a group, we create that choreography and fine-tune it along the way. And we help each other with choreography, even though there's a lead choreographer or two. And so creating that for future generations to kind of carry that torch is where the idea for our storytelling class was born. And so we approached Luis and Gato as a team, as a duo. How would you like to do this, little class for the summer? And then it just continued to grow. So we have a few students in our academy that are taking that class right now, and hopefully that class will continue to grow and continue on. But it's been really impactful for them, for their families, and for us as well. It's really beautiful, and it's something that's, I think, very unique for this type of dance company, for a Folklorico dance company.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're many things, but yeah,
I do have to say, there's a certain type of synergy at the dance company. Like we know each other. It's like a second family, for me at least. And then I think we can see it in our folklorico performances. I definitely see it in the flamenco performances, where we're sort of talking to each other on stage. And then the audience has told me that you've known each other for a long time. You can tell y'all are friends because of the way you're interacting on stage. And I think that adds to the way we started creating these dances, these choreographies, these stories. But where did voces come from? Like, I know we started in the class, we started talking about Bobita a lot, and then I dived into the research. Well, not just me, I think several of us did.
Right,
Everybody puts in, yeah.
It was definitely synchronicity. But I think for a couple of years now, Belen and I have had many discussions about how do we continue to make an impact? How do we continue to create something new, but educate audiences, tell our stories, because it's something important, right? And I think a lot of the time, our educational system tells one side of the story, and I really feel that it's our duty to tell other sides of the story, our side of the story. And there's many perspectives in every story, right? There's many sides to all stories. But it came out of that, and I think specifically for context, Nuestras Voces highlights, at least our first iteration of it, highlights 5 different Mexican-American leaders who have made a huge impact, in civil rights and equality and education. And they were way ahead of their time, right? And we reap the rewards of their work, and yet so many people, including ourselves, didn't know who they were. We didn't know their names, our students, our youth, our community. And
they're not given the credit they deserve.
They're not given the credit they deserve, exactly. And so I felt that it was really important that I think our youth and our community need to have that sense of pride and know about these people and to know about our culture and our history here, specifically in South Texas, that there are so many people have paved the way, and that's something to be proud of when we're taught a lot of the time that we don't have anything to be proud of, or we don't contribute. Not everybody thinks that, but I think that's where it came from for me, to really empower our community and empower our youth.
I love to share one of the audience's response from our Nuestras Voces show that we just did a few weeks ago. People in our audience were crying, and that's when you really, if you're telling a story with just movement and you make people cry, that was a very rewarding moment for me.
Right.
To go down to the audience after the show and have people come up to you and say, "You guys made me cry with your piece," and that was like, at least for me personally, all that hard work and hours and time and pain, it's gone.
Right. And as choreographers, you're always wondering, are people going to get it?
My point
Does
across?
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Is it going to work?
Yes.
And this is just the choreography side of it. There's a whole other layer of the theatrical side, right? The technical side, lights, entrances, and then working with live music. We are very blessed here at the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center to work hand in hand and side by side with our mariachi, or resident mariachi, directed by Gino Rivera. And working with Mariachi Azteca, it's out of their wheelhouse, right? Just like for us, they're based in traditional mariachi music. And then we come together to create these productions that are not in traditional folklorico or traditional mariachi, but
very challenging.
It is challenging, and then it's a beautiful outcome. But yeah, so definitely to hear the response, and then we also had people